I'm live. Hello. Good evening. Good to be here. Hope you're well, coping with it all. And we're on our third class on how to meditate, discovering Buddhism. So I hope you got the notes I sent out today. The notes are getting a bit longer. You probably noticed that. I think because there's no live classes, there's little chance to have proper question and answer. So I've made the notes a little bit more extensive, and I hope they're helpful. So don't forget to put some comments in. Any questions are welcome. Where it says live chat there, say something. It's always good to see some feedback, questions, response. And even if we don't get time to do the answer questions, I can think about the answers during the week and deal with them next week. So speaking of questions, I will send out after this class, hi Julia, hi. I will send out in the next hour or two the questions for the module that is put out by the people who write the course. So you can have time to have a think about them, and next week I'll put the answers up. So if you want to, hi Barbara, if you want to write some answers during the week to the questions, please feel free to send them back by email. And I'll put comments and so on. And then I'll give you what the DB people give the teacher as the correct answers, or their idea of the correct answers. So I'll put those up next week. So let's, as always, particularly for how to meditate, do a few minutes quiet meditation, calm the mind, breathing meditation. And we'll do, say, 5 minutes to start off with. And then we'll start the actual teaching. Okay, so get comfortable. So we'll just come into our body and mind, leaving outside our usual busy world, checking out internal world, our physical body, and our thoughts, our mind, what's going on inside. A few moments to set our mind in a positive mode, good motivation. First of all, appreciating how lucky we are to be able to get together in this way. Even with all the obstacles and restrictions, we can still do our practices, our study of the Dharma. And we're doing our practice not just for our own benefit, the benefit of all those in our lives around us, and ultimately benefit of all living beings. The Vajrayana motivation. Now just coming into the body, checking we're comfortable on the chair or the floor. Checking our posture, the spine straight, shoulders relaxed, neck and head slightly tilted forward. Eyes can be closed or just gently open and gazing in front. Mouth is closed and the tongue touching the top of the palate, behind the top teeth. And now just using the out breath to let go all the physical tension in the body, any pain we have. Feel that we're just relaxing more deeply with each out breath. Also breathing out all the busy mind, the distracted mind, the obstacles to our practice, letting them go. Then giving more focus to the breath as it enters and leaves the body, the gentle movement of the body with each breath. The breath is always there. We don't have to do anything. We just watch, watching the breath. Just choosing anywhere to focus on the breath that's comfortable, the movement of the whole body, or lower down at the abdomen, rising and falling, or at the nostrils, feeling the movement of the air in and out of the nostrils. And then just resting our mind there at that point. Not forgetting to check from time to time, are we still with the breath? Have we left it, been distracted? We notice that. Be glad we notice, be just relaxed, just a distraction, just a thought. And gently let go, patiently back to the breath. Stay with the breath. Just relax. After I started the meditation, I just realized I'd forgotten to do the 9-round breathing, which we can do with our next meditation. We'll do another one later in the class. 9-round is the clearing of the obstacles through the nostrils. So we did that last week. So we'll do it later, no problem. So just looking at what we're going to cover this week, it's just looking at the mindfulness of using mindfulness meditation for other senses apart from just the breath, and then the different senses can be used. Then looking at different type of mindfulness, which is of mental consciousness. So mental consciousness could be used, which is the activity of the mind, what's happening in the mind. So this is another more subtle object of meditation, or mindfulness, or concentration meditation, calm abiding meditation. It's letting go of all the sensory world and just looking at our internal world. So hopefully we'll have time to do a meditation on that. And then the third type is stabilizing meditation or concentration meditation without an object. So this is, I thought we should cover this quite well, because there's actually an article, an extract by Alan Marsh in the readings exactly on this, meditation on the mind itself. I think we'll probably wait till next week till we actually do the meditation, but we'll talk about it this week. To give you time to maybe read Alan Marsh's article. It's more subtle, the most subtle of all the meditations, and sometimes it's actually called Mahamudra, which is meditation on the mind itself. No object. There's no object in this. There's no thoughts, no sensory perceptions. The most subtle of all the mindfulness meditation. So then the coming back to the analytical meditation, we did one last week on rejoicing. So we've got a bit more discussion about analytical meditation, particularly visualization, how it's used in analytical meditation, thinking and imagining. And visualization is not just imagining something visually, but it also covers visualizing, imagining. It's not really visualizing. Imagining could be a sound of a mantra, or positive thought, looking at something with positive mind, either positive words or positive feelings. So we'll look at that, and we'll actually hopefully be able to do the meditation, which involves quite a lot of visualization, but it's simple, the white light healing meditation that is explained and given by Lama Zopa Rinpoche in his book Ultimate Healing. So it's a very powerful, very wonderful visualizing meditation for healing. So just looking at coming back to mindfulness of the senses. So when we're doing breath meditation, it's actually the sense of touch that we're observing, sense of touch, which is how the breath affects the touch sensations of the body. So we can feel the breath of the nostrils, we can feel it going into the lungs, we can feel the movement of the body with the breath. So we're using touch, but just a small part of our touch sense. So there's a broader scope of touch which we can widen. We can not just include the breath, but we can include feelings of hot and cold, which of course is through the skin, feeling the touch on our skin of the clothing we're wearing, so the air and the clothing on the skin, and any pain, which is sort of feeling the touch sensation, any pain or pleasurable feelings that we feel, or neutral feelings like feeling the weight of our body on the chair or the floor, the pull of gravity on the body. So these are all sensory part of the touch sense. So the other, so we can use any of the senses. So we do this in our drop-in meditation sometimes. We vary the object. Always start off with the breath because it's the most easy, the one that's the most powerful, probably the most effective to calm the mind. And then we can move to things like the sound awareness, what we hear, auditory input. So this is, I think I talked about this last week. It could be a distracting sound. It could be one that's very subtle. It could be like white noise, sound of air conditioner or fridge or something that we need to have a quiet mind to be able to hear. It could be a clock ticking. So what we hear into close range, distant range, we might be able to hear the birds or cars, planes and so on outside the room. And what we're doing, as with sense of touch, it's what they call bare awareness. We're just looking at the sensation, trying not to get too judgmental or start telling stories. Nice touch, nice sound, don't like that, do like this. So this judging or assessing, chit-chat, we're trying to leave that and just see if we can just perceive the bare sound itself, the bare touch. Can be quite difficult, of course, if it's a sound that annoys us. The leaf blower, the chainsaw. So if we find we're just always getting annoyed by it, again, we can look at the mind reacting from a distance, how annoying that is. Seems to be annoying. It's just a sound, but it's annoying me. So I can still create the distance. I'm aware that I'm being annoyed. And by just taking this objective view, sometimes the annoyance can subside. So, of course, it could be a very beautiful sound too, beautiful music or whatever. So again, we still try and neutralize it and just hear the sound, the bare sound, what we hear. So this is mindfulness meditation. We try and keep the self or our judging self out of it. Same with sight. So with sight, we need to open our eyes if we've got them closed, and we just gaze in what's in front of us, just taking in shapes and colours. That's sight. So with all these sensory objects, we're ruling out anything but the actual sense that we're focusing on. So we try and just focus on colours and shapes for sight. But again, without judging, without telling a story, just taking in the light, which is carrying those images and shapes and colours. See if we can just have the bare attention on sight. So other types of using the senses of mindfulness meditation, stabilizing meditation, so many words for it. Walking meditation, I mentioned that last week, mindfulness of walking. So it can be if you're walking down the street, so you can still do the practice. It's not quite as meditative, but the actual Theravada practice is to walk very, very slowly up and down, maybe just a few meters. At monasteries, they sometimes have little pathways in the garden where you walk up and down, quite narrow pathways. where you just maybe a few meters. And it could take good mindfulness walkers could take many minutes to go just those few meters. They're moving very, very slowly. Their mind is breaking it down. It's very tiny movements. So mindfulness of walking. Taste and smell seems to be left out. I guess use mindfulness of taste when eating, particularly your own, and not having to make social converse sense as well. On the action of eating can be very good practice, mindfulness. Same with other domestic chores, mindfulness of what we eat. We just go in the garden, we just garden. So this is to be mindful of what we're doing and just focusing the mind on the job in hand, what's happening. So this is these steps, the 1, 2, 3 I've got up there on page 1, are in increasing levels of subtlety. So the sense awareness is said to be the most easy in a way because it's the grossest, the coarsest. We're using the physical senses, the sense world, the outside world. So the second one, mindfulness of bare attention. I'm just looking at some notes I took, and I did a course with Glenn Svensson, who's a very good teacher of this kind of mindfulness, or the various levels of mindfulness. He's actually came to a couple of years ago and did a weekend course on shamatha, mindfulness practice. So, in the sense sound or the sense, the thoughts are what we're avoiding. There will be thoughts, but we're not following them. The idea is to not follow the thoughts, but to just stay focused on the breath, stay focused on the sound, the actual sensory object that we've chosen. But in the mental consciousness, mindfulness, we're actually welcoming thoughts. Our thoughts are okay, but we're just observing them. We're not feeding them. We're not encouraging them. We're not discouraging them. We're allowing them in, and we're watching without hooking in and being carried downstream or carried along the stream of thought consciousness. So we don't go with them. We just watch. Don't get carried away. So it's said that it's much better, easier, and better to have their eyes open when we do this practice, mental consciousness. And the reason they say is because if you've got your eyes closed, there's this tendency to think when you're watching the thoughts that you're watching, there's a me here watching the screen, like watching the TV or what's coming up. And this idea of me, some sort of self there, is a hindrance, because when we get to the third type of practice, we don't have an object. We're trying to identify that there is no self-existent me. There's a self, but it's just by implication. So said to be better to open the eyes when we do mental consciousness, observing mental consciousness thoughts, and the thoughts, just allow the thoughts to come in and pass through the mind. So we can just use a spot on the floor without focusing too strongly on it to anchor the sight, and then we're on the alert. We're watching for what's coming into the mind. So so these thoughts, what sort of thoughts? The thoughts that are pretty obvious, like an image of a friend or conversation that we've just had, or a thought of what happened yesterday, a thought of what we're going to do after the class. So these more obvious thoughts we can spot and just let go. And then the other type of the emotions, the feelings, which is sometimes more difficult to identify. It's like an undercurrent, the undercurrent of boredom, sleepiness, anxiety. We may not even notice it if we're not doing the practice, but we might notice it when we're watching for the thoughts of all levels. The objective thoughts, which are the memories, the images, but then these emotions, these more subtle subjective thoughts, subjective, how we feel. So we're using our mind to just watch all of that, and of course just watch without getting caught up in the stories, memories and so on. And so if we do find that it's actually too hard not to get caught up, we go back to the breath. Go back to the breath. So if we find we've just been swept away, caught up in some memory, or, some thought, when we notice that, bring our attention back to the breath, and we stay with the breath until we feel we've settled, perhaps can come back to the mental consciousness, what's happening in the mind. Okay, so that's what happens if there's no thoughts, when you're all ready for thoughts to come up, waiting to see what the next thought is and nothing comes. So 2 suggestions from the experts. Alan Wallace says, and other teachers, that you can deliberately bring a thought into the mind, just enter a thought. He suggests something like, what is the mind? So that's certainly something that the mind will probably grapple with. What is the mind? But then we watch the effect of putting that question in. It could create thoughts, and maybe it doesn't create thoughts. And then again, watch consciousness. The other possibility is to not do anything and just watch the fact that there is no thought. The fact that there are no thoughts is a thought. It's said to be a thought, and we can just stay with that experience of no thought. So that's the other one. So the thought of no thoughts is said, we could actually say that it is a thought, but that's just a matter of philosophy, I suppose. So there we go. That's I've got a few points there to see if I've covered them. Sometimes it's called settling the mind in its natural state. What's going on in the mind, just watching it rather than being involved. Nice analogy there. I can't quite think where it came from. I think it might have been Lama Yeshe, that it's like a hawk. When we're being mindful of thoughts, it's like that hawk floating on air currents. When you see those wildlife shows, and there's the hawk that looks as though it's completely still, and maybe it is when it's relative to land, and the wind is blowing past it to keep it suspended in the air. So the hawk is our mindfulness, and the wind of the thoughts whizzing past. So that hawk is completely aware of every movement of current of the wind, not carried away by it, but he's just watching the movement so he can stay centered. So that's another way of looking at how our mind is when we're using mental consciousness. Thoughts could be all around us, actually. We're just steady in the middle, watching. Don't grasp or reject, just let the thoughts, let the mind be. And the other one is labeling thoughts, to help us not to get carried away by whatever's coming up in the mind. We can give it a name, a label, memories, for example, thought about dinner, thought about tomorrow's plan, a word or two to see what it is, and then let it go. Word or two, just wrap it up in a word and send it off. So that can actually help sometimes with the thoughts coming quite strongly. So, so this is just a quick rundown on using mental consciousness, mental activity, as an object for our mindfulness practice. So we're going to actually, I think we'll do that one. But before that, we'll just run through the third type, which is meditation without an object, the most subtle. Because I think this fits in with next week's class, which is basically on vipassana or insight meditation. So that's basically what this sort of meditation is, where we're actually looking at the mind itself, without a meditation, without an object. So I've just put a few points from Lama Yeshe's wonderful article, or summary of his teaching, which he gave long ago. And I've got a note there that actually that teaching that he gave is, hi Ben, good to see you. That teaching is part of the book Mahamudra, which is all of Lama Yeshe's teachings on that subject, given at a particular course. And so Mahamudra came out last year, wonderful book, and I think it's wisdom. So for anyone who wants to go deeper, if they read Lama Yeshe's and get inspired, then the whole of the teaching on that type of meditation, Mahamudra, is in the book Mahamudra. And Venerable Rabina edited it, and those of us who were lucky enough saw her teach that at Vajrayana, I think it was last year, might have been the year before, excuse me, because she edited the book and she actually ran a workshop on the actual content of the book on Mahamudra. So with this type of meditation on the mind itself, we leave all objects aside. So we're not even looking at the thoughts that are going through the mind. Some descriptions or analogies can help. Glenn said that it's actually like the analogy of the clouds being the thoughts passing through the Buddha, the stainless mind, the sky being the mind in its natural state without obscurations, and the clouds temporarily coming past. So we are the sky. So instead of watching the clouds, which is the thought meditation, we're watching mental activity, we become the sky. Okay, we are the sky itself. Another good analogy is the idea of a mirror, which reflects, perfectly clean mirror. So we can watch what comes in front of the mirror. That's watching objects come into the mind. But in this one, we are the mirror. We're the mirror itself, clean, clear, and of course, non-physical. So there's no, we abandon all objects. Yeshe points out that whatever's happening in the mind, even if we seem to have amazing visions and maybe see the Buddha and so on, not even that we don't get distracted by. That's not what what the practice is. Let go of all these things that may come into the mind. So ultimately the idea is non-duality. We are the mind itself. And he uses this wonderful phrase, the fish of awareness. The fish being our awareness, and fish in a completely calm sea. The calm sea is the mind. And as anything that actually comes into that calm sea, the fish will immediately see. The fish of our awareness will see. And watching for the distraction. Excuse me. So those distractions, he calls superstitions, how the superstition distracts. Our awareness is the little fish in this vast ocean of the mind, waiting to spot those superstitious distractions, and just by noticing them, they disappear. So it needs good concentration. Lama Yeshe says, but don't try too hard. It's not a matter of effort. It's effortless effort. He gives the wonderful example of driving a car. the learner driver will be putting a lot of effort in, and the passenger will be having quite a bumpy ride because there's so much stress and strain. But the experienced driver will be very used to what's happening, and so he'll be able to give a much more relaxed drive, and it's almost like the car's flying over the ground. This is what he says. So it's a very subtle blend of concentration, but not too much concentration. And also, if we do find that the mind's not feeling comfortable, unsteady, go back to the breath. Use the breath as the anchor, as we do in the mental consciousness meditation. So some of the wonderful examples of success in this sort of meditation, Lama Tsongkhapa, he quotes as being able to almost, it's like once the mind has this ability to settle in the Mahamudra practice, it's like you could see every atom you can actually count the atoms of phenomena. So the mind is so incredibly sharp. Also, telepathic power is mentioned, which is like clairvoyance. He mentions that, but it's another byproduct of samadhi meditation. And he mentions how if on the path to enlightenment, it's very important to have some telepathic power to be able to actually look at people's minds so that we can know how to help them. So this is what Buddhas have, this compassionate clairvoyance, so they can actually see each individual's mind and what is each individual's needs as far as teachings and practices go. So another example, he says it's like Australia was before it was all fenced in. Australia was just an open country. Our mind is an open country without the fences. Okay, so we'll come back again to that next week when we'll do a practice on it. But let's, in the meantime, I'll just have a look at Ben's note there. People listening. Okay, great. Thanks, Ben. So if you don't have access to the book and you want to watch it, it's on YouTube. The full teachings of Venerable Venus Mahamudra teaching is on your YouTube channel. So just do a search and find her there. Excellent. I presume that's her teaching at VI. Wonderful. Excellent. I presume that's her teaching at VI. Wonderful. So if we do say, 10 minutes, say 10 to 15 minutes on the mental consciousness meditation, and we'll start with the breath, and then we'll do a bit more discussion about the analytical meditation on visualization, and then do the practice on white light healing meditation, which is involving visualization. All right. So let's get comfortable, and we'll go into our meditation on mental consciousness as the object. We'll do the 9-round breathing too while I think of it as a starter. So just to refresh, the 9-round breathing practice is said to be excellent for beginning any meditation session. We breathe in through the right nostril and out through the left 3 times, in through the left, out through the right 3 times, in through both, out through both 3 times. Now we can just visualize that we're breathing in through one nostril and out through the other, or we can actually block the nostril we're not using with the index finger of the left hand, I think they use. So that's optional. And also the optional visualization is to imagine the white light cleansing white light, all the positive energy of the universe coming in the in-breath, and to our practices and our health, negativities and so on, going out, it's black smoke, beyond space with the out-breath. That's if it's comfortable doing that. Okay, so let's start now with the 9-round breathing meditation. In through the right nostril, out through the left 3 times. In through the left, out through the right 3 times. In through both, out through both 3 times. And then resume normal breathing, becoming aware of the breath. Just now settling our mind on the gentle flow of the breath. Resting our attention where it's comfortable, the abdomen, the nostrils, the whole body, and just leaving the mind there. Remembering to use our alertness, introspection to watch the practice we're doing. Are we on the breath? Noticing when we get distracted. Gently letting go of that distraction, and then coming back to the breath again and again. Just quietly resting our mind on the breath. There may be thoughts, but we just don't follow them, we let them go. following full flow of the in-breath, full flow of the out-breath. So now we just gently let go of the breath. Gently open your eyes, gazing in front, eyes slightly downcast, and move our attention to consciousness, mental activity, the activity of the mind, thoughts. Allowing thoughts to enter the mind, observing the thought, the feeling, the emotion, and then letting it go. Bare awareness of the feeling. Thoughts are welcome, but we don't judge, don't hold on, just notice. Images, memories, concepts, observe and let go. If no thought, or just rest in the thought of no thought. Experience no thought. Remember that thoughts include feelings, emotions, mental undercurrents. We're watching all of those mental actions, activities, observing, not grasping, allowing them to pass through the mind, enter the mind, and leave the mind. Any uncomfortableness, unsteadiness, come back to the breath. Use the breath as the anchor come back to the breath. Just relaxing. Break. My sort of experience is that when I want, and with the practice, when I'm doing the breath meditation, the thoughts are all there, ready to come in, any thoughts. And then when I do this practice, they're scarce. I actually inviting the thoughts, and don't seem to be much. There's not much happening. Very strange. But there are seeing them. So it's actually quite a subtle practice. I don't claim to have any expertise in it, but I can see how. So next we'll do, as I said, we'll do the next sort of level of that. So with the analytical meditation, now we just to focus on a particular topic. We use rejoicing, one of the 7 limbs, which is said to be extremely beneficial for the mind. Rejoicing in our own good fortune and good actions of all kinds, particularly Dharma actions, and rejoicing in ordinary and holy beings' actions. So that's what we did last week. So this week, this practice we'll do will be the healing practice. But just before that, discussion or observations there about analytical meditation using imagination and visualization. So just have a look at that. Many people say they can't visualize, but as all the great feeling hungry and imagining the beautiful piece of pizza or chocolate cake, so the wonderful food that we're going to eat. So anything that is sort of playing on our mind that we want, like the desire objects, we can usually they usually just come into the mind without thought, without effort. Certainly do with me, particularly if I'm trying to do something like breath meditation. There's all these they have a great deal of power. So they range from these little ones to a great huge stupas such as the Bodhinut Stupa in Nepal, very, very holy site. Another one that's also in Kathmandu, Nepal, Swayambhu. Both of them are incredibly ancient. So seeing them and also circumambulating stupas is said to be incredibly powerful, even for beings like animals who don't have any particular faith or intellectual understanding. It's said to be very beneficial. So there's different types of repetition. We can just say very, very quietly. It's said that you shouldn't actually, the person next to you should not be able to hear if you're saying a mantra verbally. You just whisper to yourself. And then you can actually and allow them to stay with us rather than just moving on. Concentration meditation, where you hold the mind on that particular experience by holding the mind. Say if we're feeling a great sense of compassion from our practice, from our meditation, using our ability to hold the mind, stabilizing meditation on that experience so that it becomes part of our mental experience. And so it makes it easier to repeat. Again, we get more familiar with that. And of course, anything that's going to change and application do have that. So we trust the teacher, so that helps us to trust, to keep our mind open and develop our belief that will be based on reasons, experience, and also the examples we see in our teachers. So he mentions about playful sense. Okay, let's try something, even if we're not sure whether we believe it or not. So that's background to what analytical meditation involves. So he's also included a very good quote from Lama Yeshe from his book on Teachings on Tantra, that this importance of being open to letting go of our pre-existing conceptions, which are often more usually misconceptions, and seeing ourselves in a different way. So as Lama Yeshe says, we're normally, if we're unenlightened beings, we're trapped within a circle of dissatisfaction. We hold a very limited view of who we are and who we can become. So in Tantra, our tantric practice Tantra, even at an elementary stage where we do some just basic visualization, we have this opportunity to shed what he calls the superstitious layers, and see ourselves, as he says, transcendently beautiful as gods and goddesses, as future Buddhas. So remember, if you did the teachings, the module on Tantra, we use the result in the path. So we imagine our result of our practice, that, being a Buddha, into the present. We bring that into the present. We imagine we are actually the Buddha when we do our tantric practice. We bring our future enlightened mind as if we have it now. Imagine we have it now. So, so there's just some good points there about the use of visualization in analytical meditation. So probably the best thing, it's already 1:15. What I've done is actually set out quite, so you could do the practice at home. I sort of set out a step-by-step guide to doing the practice. No need to go through it in great detail, but just to, it all comes from Lama Zopa's Ultimate Healing book. So the practice, very useful now, of course, in the coronavirus time, to be able to do this. So he says, first of all, that this is a practice not just to eliminate physical disease, but also non-physical disease, which he calls spirit harms, things like hindrances to our life, can affect our health, negative actions and imprints of negative actions. So these are karmic obstacles, things that we've done in the past that are like negative seeds on our mind stream, so we can actually purify those so they don't ripen. And so basically use a healing source. Now this healing source is the visualization part of the practice. So Lama Zopa suggests a stupa, one, but he says you can also visualize image of the Buddha or our Guru, mind in the form of white light, and the healing white light emanating from the healing source, which we have some faith in. This is the belief part of it, and that we visualize coming into our hearts. We use the breath, the in-breath, to take in the healing light into the body, and then we use the out-breath to get rid of all our negativity. So we actually do start with the out-breath. We purify first, after we set our motivation and our mindfulness, so that all negativism includes not just our illnesses, our potential for illnesses, but also our negative. So we're breathing this out beyond the universe. The smoke's not going to contaminate anyone. Then we hold the idea, the feeling that we actually have coming. First of all, we visualize the healing source, the stupa, the Buddha, radiating white light, and this white light taken with each in-breath, coming in like sunbeams into the heart, illuminating the heart, dissolving the solidity of the body, making it a body of light. With that light comes loving kindness, all the qualities that we admire, and then we actually hold the image. Wow, we appreciate the results, feel that we've actually succeeded in the practice, and then we dedicate. So we'll do the practice, abbreviated form, and the dedication. Just because we may not get time later, there's some home meditation there that White Chong has in this class that he did when he taught it. So this is basically using words to develop compassion. It's actually a compassion meditation that he's setting up there. And these are words, if you've listened to his classes, that he often uses to develop compassion to self and others. May I live safely, be happy, may be healthy, live with ease. So that's possible, something you could do at home. All right, so let's just go straight into the healing meditation, the white light healing meditation. Just coming into the breath for a few moments to settle the mind. Just setting the motivation, quoting Lama Zopa, the purpose of my life is not just to solve my own problems and find happiness, but to free all beings who are suffering from their problems and bring them to happiness. To do this, I need to be healthy and have a long life. This is the reason for doing long life healing meditation. Then we settle our body physically. Comfortable position. Balancing our mind, natural breathing. Then we start the purification part of the practice, focusing on the out breath, visualizing with each breath, breathing out all our diseases and their causes in the form of black smoke, all our potentials to experience disease, all our negativities, all our negative karma and their imprints, all our experiences of pain and sorrow and suffering. All this, breathing it out of our body and mind with each out breath. The dark smoke contaminated with all our impurities goes out of our body, out beyond space, releasing ourselves from this impurity. Just with each out breath, we're freeing ourselves. We're staying within our breath, staying with your visualization, purifying, breathing out the black smoke with each out breath. So as we purify the breath, the smoke, the darkness of the smoke disappears, and we feel our body is completely purified, each cell filled with light. Just staying with our awareness and knowledge that we've dispelled our negative beliefs. They've all banished from our body and mind. Leaving a clear light, white light within us. Body completely purified. Now we can focus on the in-breath, beginning by visualizing in front of us a healing source, an image of the Buddha, an image of the stupa, an image of our guru, if we have a guru, radiating white light from this healing source. You feel this, see this white light beaming out, rays, healing nectars, white light, white nectar. And with each in-breath, we take in the white light, breathing in the white light. White light symbolizing all the positive qualities we admire, and all the qualities of enlightened beings, bodhisattvas, compassion, wisdom, kindness, generosity. The light goes straight into the heart, and from the heart it radiates through the whole body, dissolving the body into light, fusing it with these qualities of compassion and wisdom. With each in-breath, we feel the white light flooding into our hearts, filling our body in light. Healing power of the white light pervading the body. Every corner of the body filled with white light. Just holding that image of the body transformed into light from that healing white light. So this practice, the breath, in-breath, out-breath can be repeated. But for now, we'll move to the next step, which is imagining that our body is this white body of light. We could imagine each cell, atom of the body is actually a miniature Buddha. Each miniature Buddha radiating white light. Filling each cell and atom of the body with healing, wisdom, compassion. Allowing our body to feel the bliss of this blessing. We're feeling that our body and mind are completely new, radiant body, overflowing with joy, wisdom, compassion. This is our ultimate potential realized. So then feel that our practice is successful, our life has been prolonged, causes of happiness have been increased, causes of our enlightenment have been increased. And we can now dedicate our practice, positive energy we've created, dedicate it out to all sentient beings. The feeling of white light is radiating out to all sentient beings, purifying, blessing them. And then the dedication from Lama Zopa, due to the merits from this practice, I develop the ultimate good heart, bodhicitta, and lead all sentient beings to enlightenment. I'll just read second dedication from Lama Zopa that he uses for healing practices for the coronavirus practice. Due to the merits of the 3 times collected by me and all the numberless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and numberless sentient beings, may all wars, sickness, famine, torture, poverty, economic problems in the world, and all dangers of earth, water, fire, and wind be pacified immediately May perfect peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and lives. May the Buddha Dharma last for a long time, and may the sentient beings in this world meet the Buddha Dharma and achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. We're dedicating to that. So with that, we'll finish our session. Thanks so much for being there. Great to see you there, and I hope to see you again next week. All right, have a great night and a great week. All the best. Bye.